Showmore 22:57. The sirens are already screaming when the first window explodes. Glass rains down on the asphalt in 1,000 glittering pieces, and inside the bus children are crying, their voices rising above the crackle of flames that haven't yet consumed everything but will soon, too soon. The front half is already engulfed, black smoke pouring from the engine compartment where something went catastrophically wrong 3 minutes ago on this empty stretch of highway outside the city limits. The driver got out. He's on his knees 20 feet away, hands on his head, screaming into his phone. 12 kids still inside. 12. The Mustang comes over the hill doing 90, maybe more. It's midnight blue with racing stripes, the kind of car that gets impounded at least once a month, and the driver doesn't slow down when he sees the smoke column rising against the sunset. He accelerates. Behind him, a cherry red Skyline and a matte black Charger follow, engines howling, and all three of them have been running from the law for the better part of 5 years, making money on illegal street races, burning rubber on closed highways, living entirely outside the system that gave up on them long before they gave up on it. The Mustang's tires shriek as it pulls onto the shoulder. Door opens before the car even stops. The driver is out, boots hitting gravel, and he's moving toward the bus without thinking, without planning, just moving because those screams are the kind that burrow into your skull and don't let go. He's 26, arms covered in tattoos that tell stories he's never spoken aloud, face hard in the way faces get when trust becomes a liability. Name's irrelevant right now. What matters is he's running toward fire while everyone else runs away. Are you insane? The bus driver is sobbing. It's gonna blow. The whole thing's gonna. How many? What? How many kids? 12, but you can't. He's already at the door. The handle is hot enough to blister skin, but he yanks it anyway, and the heat that rolls out is like opening an oven, thick and suffocating. Smoke fills his lungs immediately. Inside, the children are pressed toward the back, some screaming, some silent with terror, all of them small and fragile and completely out of time. The fire is spreading fast, eating through seats, melting plastic, and the temperature is rising with every second. He doesn't think. Thinking is what gets you killed. First kid is maybe 7, frozen in her seat, eyes wide. He grabs her, lifts her like she weighs nothing, carries her to the door, and hands her down to the bus driver, who's found his feet again. Get them away from here. Far. Back inside. The smoke is worse now, black and toxic, and he can barely see 3 feet ahead. 2 more kids huddled together, holding hands. He takes both, one under each arm, and they're crying, but they're moving, and that's what matters. Out the door, down the steps, to the driver. The Skyline's driver is out now, too, younger, barely 23, with a scar along his jaw from a crash 2 years back that should have killed him. He's at the emergency exit in the back, kicking at the door that's jammed, warped from the heat. It's stuck. Harder. One more kick, and it gives. 3 children stumble out into his arms, coughing, faces streaked with soot and tears. He passes them down to the woman from the Charger, who appeared without announcement, all business, moving kids away from the bus with the efficiency of someone who's had to think fast her whole life. Inside, the fire has reached the middle rows. The driver of the Mustang is back in, crawling now, because the smoke is too thick to stand in, feeling his way along the floor, and his eyes are streaming, lungs burning, every breath like swallowing glass. He finds another child wedged between seats, paralyzed with fear, and has to pry small fingers loose from the metal frame. I got you. I got you. His voice is raw, barely recognizable. Out again. The heat is incredible now, and he knows, they all know, that this thing is seconds away from becoming a fireball. For kids left, the mathematics are simple and terrible. For kids in the back of a burning bus, maybe 60 seconds before the fuel tank goes. 3 people whose society wrote off as criminals, as wastes, as problems to be solved rather than people to be understood. The woman takes the next run. She's faster, smaller, can fit through spaces they can't, and she disappears into the smoke without hesitation. When she emerges, she has 2 children, one on her back, one in her arms, and her jacket is smoking, small embers eating at the fabric. She doesn't stop to put it out, just sheds it and goes back in. That's 11. The younger man is counting, always counting. One more. The explosion everyone's been waiting for comes, but it's not the big one. It's something in the engine, a sharp crack followed by a fresh gout of flame that shoots up through the dashboard. And now the front third of the bus is an inferno, completely impassable. If there's a kid in the back, there's no way to reach them from the front door anymore. The woman comes out empty-handed, coughing so hard she can barely stand. Can't see. Which seat? Back left, I think. She doubles over, retching. The first driver looks at the bus, at the flames, at the emergency exit in the back that's open but surrounded by fire now. The metal frame is glowing. The tires are melting. Every instinct he spent years honing to keep himself alive is screaming at him to run. He goes in through the back exit. The heat is biblical. And for a moment, just one terrible moment, he understands what it must be like to burn alive. The child is there, small, maybe 5 years old, unconscious from the smoke, slumped across the back seat. He grabs the small body, wraps it in his shirt, and turns back toward the exit just as the whole rear section starts to collapse inward, metal screaming as it bends and warps. He jumps, goes through the exit in a dive, clutching the child against his chest, and hits the ground hard, rolling, feeling something in his shoulder give, but not caring, not stopping, just getting up and running because the fuel tank is a ticking clock and everyone knows it. The younger man grabs his arm, pulls him faster, and they're sprinting now, all of them carrying children, dragging each other, and behind them the bus makes a sound like the earth splitting open. The explosion is massive. It lifts the entire vehicle off the ground for a moment, a ball of orange and red that turns night into day, heat washing over them even 50 feet away. Debris rains down, burning, and they cover the children with their bodies, becoming shields, becoming the protection no one ever gave them. When the initial blast fades, there's a moment of perfect silence. Then the children start crying again, and somehow that's the most beautiful sound in the world. The bus driver is on his knees again, but this time he's weeping with relief, counting heads, touching each child like he can't believe they're real. 12. All 12. You got all 12. Emergency vehicles are arriving now. Fire trucks and ambulances and police cars, lights painting everything red and blue. Paramedics swarm immediately, checking the children, wrapping them in blankets, administering oxygen. The three who pulled them out are standing apart, catching their breath, and they're burned, cut, bleeding, clothes destroyed, but alive. All alive. A police officer approaches, and the body language of all three shifts immediately. Years of conditioning. Years of being chased, caught, cuffed. The officer stops a few feet away, hand near his belt, but not on anything, and for a long moment nobody speaks. That was... The officer's voice cracks. He clears his throat, tries again. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. The first driver doesn't respond, just watches the children being loaded into ambulances, and his face is unreadable, all that carefully constructed armor back in place. You saved them all. The officer takes another step closer. You know that? You're heroes. We're not heroes. The woman's voice is flat, exhausted. We're just people who were here. You have warrants. All three of you. It's not a question. The officer already knows. Active warrants for street racing, reckless endangerment, evading arrest. The younger man laughs, sharp and bitter. So that's how this goes. We pull 12 kids out of a fire and you arrest us anyway. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. The officer looks at the burning wreckage, at the children being treated, at the three people standing before him who are barely staying upright, who smell like smoke and burned fabric and heroism that the system has no language for. Get out of here, he says quietly, before more units arrive. Get out of here and don't come back to this county. They don't move immediately, suspicious of generosity, waiting for the catch. I mean it. You were never here. I never saw you. This whole thing, he gestures at the scene. That was anonymous Good Samaritans who disappeared before anyone could get names. You understand? The first driver understands. He understands that mercy is often just another form of dismissal, that even gratitude comes with conditions, that saving 12 lives doesn't erase the system's judgment of who they are and what they've done. But he also understands that arrest means jail, and jail means not being able to make the choices that led them here in the first place. They walk back to their cars. The Mustang's paint is blistered from the heat, and there's a crack in the windshield from flying debris. The skyline has a dent in the hood. The Charger's front bumper is half melted. None of them care. They get in, engines turning over with that familiar rumble, and for a moment they just sit there, hands on steering wheels, staring at nothing. A small voice interrupts. Wait. One of the children has broken away from the paramedics, running back, and she's the first one he pulled out, the 7-year-old who was frozen in her seat. She stops at his window, tiny hand pressed against the glass, and she's crying but smiling, and she says 2 words that hit harder than any crash, any arrest, any judgment he's ever faced. Thank you. He can't speak, doesn't trust his voice, just nods, once, and then he's driving, pulling away, and in his rearview mirror the emergency lights are getting smaller, the fire is being contained, and 12 children are alive who shouldn't be. The 3 cars drive in formation, like always, heading toward the city limits, and none of them talk on the radio frequency they share, because what is there to say? They've spent years being told they're worthless, dangerous, a cancer on society that needs to be cut out. They've internalized it, believed it, lived down to every expectation. And tonight they prove something different, not to the world, but to themselves. The highway stretches ahead, empty and dark. Behind them, the news crews are arriving, setting up cameras, preparing to tell the story of a miracle, of 12 children saved by mysterious strangers who vanished before they could be thanked. There will be speculation, theories, calls to find them and reward them. But the officer will stick to his story. Anonymous Good Samaritans, no descriptions, nothing useful, because he understands that some debts can't be repaid within the system, and some people do the right thing precisely because they exist outside of it. In the Mustang, the driver's hands are shaking now that the adrenaline is fading. He notices for the first time that his palms are burned, blistered, and raw, and his shoulder is definitely dislocated, grinding with every movement. Pain is catching up, demanding attention. He ignores it. Pain is familiar. Pain is manageable. It's the other feeling that's harder to process, the sense of having done something that mattered, something that can't be taken away or invalidated no matter what happens next. His phone buzzes. Text from the woman. Where to? Good question. They can't go back to their usual spots, not after the officer's warning. Can't risk being seen, identified, connected to the scene, which means leaving, starting over somewhere new, which is what they've done a dozen times before when things got too hot. Except this time feels different. This time they're not running from consequences of something destructive. They're running from recognition for something good. The irony isn't lost on him. He pulls off an abandoned rest stop, the other 2 following, and they get out, leaning against their cars in the darkness. The woman is the first to speak. My hands won't stop shaking. Mine either. The younger man holds them up, watching them tremble in the moonlight. That kid I pulled out, the one who wasn't breathing, did you see if... Paramedics got him breathing again. I saw. Relief washes over his face, so pure and unguarded that he looks about 16 instead of 23. Okay, good. They stand in silence, and the weight of what they just did settles over them like a physical thing. 12 lives. 12 futures that would have ended tonight, except for split-second decisions made by people whose society insists have no value. We should leave the state, the woman says finally. Clean break. Find somewhere new. And do what? The younger man sounds lost. Race again? Run again? That what we're going to do forever? What else is there? The first driver has been quiet, staring at his burned hands, and when he speaks his voice is different somehow, less certain, more vulnerable. I keep thinking about that kid's face. The way she looked at me when she said thank you. Like I was, he stops, struggling. Like I was someone worth thanking. We are worth thanking, the woman says fiercely. We saved 12 kids. We're criminals. It's not self-pity, just fact. We've got warrants in 4 states. We've put people in danger with our racing. We've broken laws, destroyed property, contributed exactly nothing positive to the world until tonight. So what are you saying? He doesn't know what he's saying. That's the problem. For years, his identity has been simple, outlaw, racer, someone existing in opposition to the system. And now there's this crack in that identity, this glimpse of something else he might be capable of, and he doesn't know what to do with it. I'm saying maybe we don't have to keep being who we've always been. The younger man laughs, but there's no humor in it. Right. We're just going to walk into some normal life, get normal jobs, pretend we're normal people. Why not? Because the world doesn't work that way. You think anyone's going to hire us with our records? You think we can just erase what we've done and start over? People do it all the time. Not people like us. The woman interrupts. He's right, though. Not about the normal life part. That's fantasy. But about not having to keep being who we've been. Tonight was different. We chose something different. We could keep choosing. Choose what? I don't know. But not this. Not just running and racing and waiting for the crash that finally kills us. The conversation dies there because none of them have answers, just questions that are too big to solve at an abandoned rest stop at 1 a.m. while their hands shake and their bodies ache and their cars sit behind them like metal monuments to a life that suddenly feels insufficient. Headlights appear on the highway, and they all tense immediately, hands moving toward car doors, ready to run. But it's not police. It's a news van, probably heading to the fire scene, and it passes without slowing, the people inside completely unaware that they just drove past the story they're chasing. We should go, the woman says, before someone sees us here. They get back in their cars, and the engines start up again, that familiar roar that's been soundtracked to their lives for so long. But as they pull back onto the highway, something has shifted, some fundamental thing that can't be put back the way it was. Miles pass in silence, broken only by the occasional crackle of the radio. They're heading north, away from everything familiar, and none of them know where they'll end up or what comes next. The sun is starting to rise, painting the horizon in shades of orange and gold that look uncomfortably like flames, and the first driver keeps seeing that little girl's face, that moment of pure gratitude that contained no judgment, no conditions, just simple human recognition of one person helping another. His phone buzzes again. This time it's a news alert. Breaking, 12 children rescued from burning bus by mysterious heroes. The article is short on details because there are no details to give, just speculation and gratitude, and calls from the community to identify the rescuers so they can be properly honored. He deletes the alert. They stop for gas just after dawn at a station, so remote it probably doesn't even appear on maps. And while the tanks fill, they gather by the air pump, exhausted, filthy burnt. A family pulls up at the next pump, parents with 2 kids in car seats, living some safe suburban life that probably includes soccer practice and parent-teacher conferences and all the normal things that normal people do. The mother glances over at them. 3 people who clearly just crawled out of hell, and her hand moves protectively to her purse. The father steps between them and his family, body language defensive. They see criminals, dangers, threats to be managed. The first driver meets the father's eyes, sees the fear there, the judgment, and feels something inside him harden again, that armor reforming. This is how the world sees them. This is how it will always see them, no matter what they do, because one night of heroism doesn't erase years of choices, doesn't change the fundamental equation of who gets to be trusted and who doesn't. They finish filling up without speaking, get back in their cars, and drive. The highway continues north, endless and indifferent, and somewhere behind them, 12 children are waking up in hospitals, being reunited with parents who thought they were dead, starting the long process of healing from trauma that will probably stay with them forever. The bus driver is giving interviews, describing anonymous heroes who appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The police officer is maintaining his story, protecting people who probably don't deserve protection by legal standards, but earned it anyway through actions that transcended law. And 3 people who society has written off completely are driving toward an uncertain future, carrying the weight of 12 saved lives, 12 moments that prove they're capable of something better than what they've been. The woman's voice crackles over the radio. I keep thinking we should feel different, like something should have changed. What were you expecting? The younger man sounds bitter. A revelation? A transformation? We're still the same people we were yesterday. Are we, though? No one answers, because the answer is complicated, because they are and they aren't, because one act doesn't define a person, but it does reveal something, some capacity that was always there waiting. The first driver's phone buzzes one more time. Another news alert, but this one makes him pull over hard, the car skidding onto the shoulder. The others follow, confused, worried. What's wrong? He's reading the article, and his face has gone completely blank. They're offering a reward, $50,000, to anyone who can identify the people who saved those kids. Silence, thick and loaded. 50,000. The younger man's voice is hungry, desperate. That's enough to change everything. Who would we tell? The woman sounds cautious. If we come forward, we get arrested. The warrants don't disappear just because we did something good. Unless they do. Unless the publicity forces their hand, makes it impossible to prosecute people everyone's calling heroes. Or it makes it easier because we've identified ourselves. They're at a crossroads, literally and metaphorically, and the decision they make will determine everything that comes next. Stay anonymous and keep running, or step into the light and face whatever consequences come with it, good or bad. The first driver thinks about that little girl again, about the way she looked at him like he mattered, and he realizes that the reward isn't the point. The recognition isn't the point. The point is whether they have the courage to claim ownership of the best thing they've ever done, to stand up and say, yes, that was us, we're the ones, despite everything it might cost. I'm turning around, he says. What? The younger man sounds panicked. Are you insane? We had a deal with that cop. Stay gone, stay anonymous. The cop made that deal because he thought we wanted to stay hidden. But maybe I don't. Maybe I'm tired of hiding from the one good thing I've done in my entire life. They'll arrest you. Probably. Then why? He doesn't have a good answer. Just a feeling that running from this particular thing would be running from the best part of himself. And he's tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of accepting society's verdict on who he gets to be. I'm going back. You don't have to come. He pulls out onto the highway, heading south now, back toward the scene, toward the consequences, toward whatever comes next. And after a moment, he hears the sound of 2 more engines turning, 2 more cars falling into formation behind him, and he knows without looking that they're coming all of them, together. The drive back takes 2 hours, and with every mile the fear gets worse, the uncertainty more suffocating. They could be driving toward arrest, prosecution, years in prison for all those warrants they've been dodging. But they could also be driving towards something else, some chance at redemption that's only possible if they're willing to claim it openly, with all the risk that involves. By the time they reach the scene, it's mid-morning and transformed into a media circus. News vans everywhere, reporters doing stand-ups, crews interviewing witnesses. The burned hulk of the bus is still there, cordoned off, a blackened skeleton of what almost became a tomb. Police presence is heavy, detectives taking statements, investigators photographing evidence. They park at the edge of the chaos, and for a long moment none of them move. Last chance to back out, the woman says quietly. The first driver opens his door. I'm done backing out. They walk toward the scene together, 3 people who look like they've been through war, and immediately they're noticed. A reporter sees them, does a double take, and suddenly everyone's attention is shifting, cameras turning, and someone shouts, that's them. That's the cars. A surge of people. Microphones thrust forward, questions shouted over each other in an incomprehensible wall of noise. The police react immediately, uniforms moving to intercept, hands go to weapons. And this is it. This is the moment everything either falls apart or somehow, impossibly, comes together. The officer from last night pushes through the crowd, and his face when he sees them is complicated, surprise, concern, something that might be respect. What are you doing here? We're turning ourselves in. The first driver's voice is steady, clear. We're the ones who pulled those kids out, and we're ready to face whatever comes with that. The officer stares at him for a long moment, then slowly, deliberately, he smiles. You magnificent idiots. He turns to the other officers. Stand down. These people are witnesses, not suspects. But, sir, they have. I know what they have. And right now, in this moment, they're heroes who saved 12 children. Everything else can wait. The reporters are going wild, cameras capturing everything, and the officer raises his voice over the chaos. These three individuals risked their lives last night to save 12 children from a burning bus. They're here voluntarily to give statements and receive the recognition they deserve. What follows is surreal. Interviews, photos, questions about who they are and why they did it, and they answer honestly, holding nothing back, talking about the fear and the heat and the terrible mathematics of trying to save everyone when time is running out. They don't try to minimize their criminal history, don't pretend to be anything other than what they are, and somehow that honesty makes the story more powerful, not less. By afternoon, they're on every major news network. By evening, their faces are everywhere, along with the story of three street racers with criminal records who became heroes in the moment it mattered most. Public opinion crystallizes quickly. These are people who made mistakes, but proved their fundamental humanity when it counted. Pressure mounts on prosecutors to drop the warrants, to recognize that punishment serves no purpose when redemption is already happening. It takes 3 days. 3 days of legal wrangling, media attention, public pressure, and ultimately a press conference where a district attorney announces that in light of extraordinary circumstances and public service, all pending charges are being dismissed with prejudice, and the three individuals are being commended for bravery above and beyond any reasonable expectation. The reward money is distributed, $50,000 split 3 ways, and it's enough to change things, enough to start over properly this time, with intention rather than just reaction. They stand together outside the courthouse after the press conference, overwhelmed, exhausted, and fundamentally changed. The cameras are still there, but at a distance now, respectful, and the first driver looks at the other two, these people who followed him in a fire and then followed him back into the light, and he knows that whatever comes next they'll figure out together. "So what now?" the younger man asks. "I don't know," he admits. "Something different. Something better. That's not much of a plan. It's more than we had before." They walk to their cars one last time, these machines that carried them through years of running. And there's a bittersweetness to it, because this chapter is ending, must end, but the story continues. They'll sell the cars probably, or keep them as reminders, monuments to who they were and who they're choosing not to be anymore. A small voice interrupts again. "Excuse me." It's her, the 7-year-old, with her parents this time, and the gratitude in their faces is almost unbearable in its intensity. The mother is crying, the father can barely speak, and the child is holding a drawing she made, crude, beautiful, showing 3 cars and 12 stick figures and a big red bus, and across the top in shaky letters, "Thank you for saving us." The first driver kneels down, so he's at her level, and he takes the drawing with hands that are still bandaged, still healing. "Thank you for this. I'm going to keep it forever. You're a hero," she says with absolute certainty, the kind of moral clarity only children possess. He doesn't correct her, doesn't explain all the ways he's not, because maybe heroism isn't about being perfect. Maybe it's just about showing up when it matters, doing the right thing even when it's terrifying, choosing connection over isolation, action over apathy, courage over fear. "You're welcome," he says, and means it with everything he has. The family leaves, and the 3 of them stand there in the fading light, holding a child's drawing, carrying the weight of 12 saved lives. And for the first time in longer than any of them can remember, the future feels like something other than just more highways stretching into darkness. They get in their cars one final time, engines rumbling to life, but when they pull out onto the street, they're not racing, not running, just driving at a normal speed toward whatever comes next, and somehow that's the bravest thing they've ever done.